Hey guys, what's up? Sean here, and today I wanted to talk about what I think is a pretty big issue, at least as far as a little bit of a frustration factor with this game, and something that someone pointed out to me in the comments on my last video, which I had actually talked about in that video, but in a different take of that video. I redid it, and in the redo I just didn't mention it. So I'm going to dedicate this entire video to the topic, which is the topic of knockdowns. Now, in this game, it is not infrequent to have fights with 3 or 4 knockdowns where for you personally, you could get knocked down 2 or 3 times yourself. So there could be, 6 or 7 in the game. But personally, there is a frequency even of 6 or 7, possibly 8 knockdowns just for me, before I finally get the KO. And this fight is an example of that. I knocked down McGregor here 6 times before finally putting him away. And that's just not a realistic version of how a fight would go. And I think that the issue is more fundamental to the game than you might think, and is going to be way harder to fix, if not impossible to fix, in this iteration. Now, of course, they could up the damage of strikes or lower the frequency of recovery from these strikes, and that would sort of mitigate this a little bit. But one of the biggest problems this game has, and this series has from EA, is they like to show, the bruising. I remember they talked about that so much with the first game. It's going to be the cuts and the bruising. It's going to look all realistic, but it doesn't mean anything because they've built everything around these health events. So, like, for example, I'm going to use leg kicks. The leg kicks, yes, they accumulate over time in the sense that your leg becomes less and less healthy over time, resulting in more and more health events, but that's all it results in. Instead of health events with leg kicks, you should be limping and you should be slowing down and your movement should be, lessened. And then, yes, over time, they progress to the point where you start falling and all these things and causing the health events. But it shouldn't be a health event, if you get what I'm saying. You get kicked in the leg and you start moving slower because the health event occurs, not because the accumulation of leg kicks, it's just because they spammed the leg kick in that moment. Like, I just caused a health event to his leg right now, and it's because he kicked me and got checked repeatedly. It's not because, the damage was accumulating. It just, the health event becomes more and more frequent, instead of it just being kind of a constant state of damage, which is the same problem with the knockdowns, because instead of a guy becoming, more fragile over time and, working slower and really, basically being dazed, they get dazed when they get into that wobbly state from the health event, but they're not overall dazed. They're just, the health event triggers more and more often, which triggers more and more knockdowns, which, over time accumulates to the big one where you finally, put them away because the, ability for them to recover lessens over time. But it's not causing, prolonged damage. Even the body shots, they sort of add up to, a little bit less stamina is what they're supposed to be doing, but it does seem like it's a slow build, and even then, the stamina part of it seems to only come into play once the health events start to pile up. The more and more a health event occurs is when the stamina, thing starts to appear, whereas really the stamina should be being affected over time, and then, later on in that process would be the health events, not like sometimes, you see the stamina goes down because you caused a health event. It should be the reverse of that. The stamina goes down and then the health events. And everything is built around these health events where, basically the fighters fight like they're fresh round 1 fighters, with the exception of during health events. And yes, they become more and more frequent, but it still is incredibly frustrating. And I think part of it is the stamina, which is overall, if you see right here, I'm basically full stamina going into this round, and McGregor is not, but he's also been punching the air plenty of times, which is really resulting in his lack of stamina more so than anything else. It's just the fact that he keeps punching the air. So, I think, going into the second round, there's no reason that I have 100% of my stamina available to me. That doesn't make any sense. Because even if you say Nate has great stamina, which he does, nobody goes into the second round of a fight as fresh as they were in the first round of a fight. That just doesn't make any sense. Okay? Even if you're, Cain Velasquez in his prime days, or Nate, or one of these guys who's known for being able to just keep going, it's still a little bit less than it was in the first round, even if it's not as drastic. Like, McGregor should have a drastic change between round 1 and round 2 in terms of stamina, because we've seen fight after fight that that's what happens to him. So this game does a poor job of building the damage and the effects of the fight over time, because it relies so much on these, systems, this like gamey type, this video gamey type system where like, oh, that caused an event and now this event causes these debuffs, rather than, simulating what the human body would go through during a fight like this. And finally, I do get him to go to sleep here, but it wasn't because, I slowed him with the leg kicks and I went to his body and he got tired and he got sloppy. It was because I caused 5 or 6 health events, or 7 or 8, or however many it was, and then finally on this health event there was no recovery left. It's just, the game is fundamentally flawed, I think, in this way, and I think it will take an entire overhaul in like the next title for them to really get into this and fix it. Let me know what you guys think, if I'm onto something here, and how you feel. The guy who was talking to my comments was pretty upset about it, to the point of saying he canceled his pre-order. I don't think it's that bad, but it is something, to be aware of and to know if you're gonna buy this game. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all later.